This is an MJA Inc. Investigations warning. This MJA podcast is rated E for explicit. Some details of a case and language used on this podcast might be upsetting to some of our listeners. Listeners' discretion is advised. And for those who are still with us, kick back and enjoy the show. Welcome to our MJA podcast. This is an MJA News Spot, Part 22. A True Conspiracy. The Mysterious Death of Marcus Merritt Sr. Marcus Merritt Sr. died on January 4, 2013 in St. Landry Parish, Louisiana, at his home, which was ruled a suicide by self-inflicted gunshot. Law enforcement's mistake. No investigation of the circumstances or any so-called official witness statements who should have been interviewed on the day Mr. Merritt's body was discovered. What was given by Mr. Merritt's in-laws and his wife is Mr. Merritt killed himself. Nothing official. No autopsy. Mr. Merritt's body was taken directly to the funeral home. My name is Mark, and I will be presenting this evidence about Mr. Merritt's death. We are coming to you from Morrisonville, New York. What the Louisiana State Police and St. Landry Parish didn't count on was Royce Eckley coming forward claiming that her son's death was not a suicide. What the Louisiana State Police and St. Landry Parish, including prosecutors, don't want you to know about Mr. Merritt's death. Around March 2014, MJA got involved concerning the death of Marcus Merritt Sr. Our client, Royce Eckley, spent the Christmas holidays in 2012 into 2013 with Mr. Merritt and his family. Our client seen nothing unusual about her son, only that there was some tension between Mr. Merritt and his wife, which wasn't even unusual. Mr. Merritt was not playing with a gun or have one in his pocket during his mother's visit, but the wife would claim days later that's what happened. MJA interviewed first responders at the scene. MJA also interviewed the funeral director and Mr. Merritt's barber, who cut his hair for the burial. MJA learned that Mr. Merritt was days away from moving to Texas to start a new job and a place to live, being close to his mother. Mr. Merritt was leaving his wife, and there was talk about child visitation. Mr. Merritt did have some legal issues, but all the parties involved thought a plea bargain was the best thing to do with probation and a fine. Due to the circumstances of the interviews and the documents we did have, a lot of the things just wasn't adding up. MJA knew that when the death is ruled suicide, anybody requesting the info concerning the death through police public record files and the Freedom of Information Act has the right to have that info, for it's not an active investigation. In return, MJA filed the paperwork, sent emails, made phone calls to gain the info we requested. There were no replies, which is against the law concerning a public information request. Our client, Royce Eckley, wanted her son's body exhumed for an autopsy and an investigation into her son's death by law enforcement. Sometime in 2015, MJA finally spoke with a Louisiana State Police detective about our concerns. The same detective would later tell MJA our request for the death room photos isn't possible due to the fact that there were no photos of the death room with Mr. Merritt still in the room because none was taken. This is one fact where MJA took exception to, that even on a suicide, you have to document and take photos of the scene. During this time, the Louisiana State Police was passing me along to public record offices to talk to, the state websites to email our evidence and our concerns. In return, that's what MJA did, and even one better. Every Monday, the related parties would get an email of our requests and concerns about Mr. Merritt's death. The Louisiana State Police or the St. Landry Parish, including the prosecutor's office, can't deny this fact. It's all documented. Just ask our client. Once again, no movement from anyone concerning Mr. Merritt's death. Then in came Together We Stand out of California, who fights for social injustice. Together We Stand and MJA got media coverage concerning Mr. Merritt's death, several podcasts, to where Mr. Merritt's death was becoming national news, even hitting the United Kingdom. In March 2016, MJA warned all law enforcement involved and the prosecutor that Together We Stand with MJA and our client would be on the Tracy Fort radio show, a call to action. This will take place on May 25, 2016. We will be interviewed about the evidence that we have and our requests to have this avenue investigated. The request to have Mr. Merritt's body exhumed. Still, no reply. We carried out our interview with Tracy Fort on her live radio show. It wasn't by accident that the Louisiana State Police opened an investigation into Mr. Merritt's death in May 2016. It wasn't by accident that a judge signed the order to have Mr. Merritt's body exhumed. It's the first of its kind in the state of Louisiana to have a body exhumed by the evidence collected by two volunteer groups, Together We Stand and MJA. When our client and MJA found out about the body being exhumed, our request was I wanted to be in the autopsy room to make sure everything was done correctly. The body of Mr. Merritt was exhumed on June 2nd, 2016. The Louisiana State Police went out of their way to conduct the autopsy, so I wouldn't be able to catch a flight from New York to Louisiana. Our client was also kept in the dark and only found out just hours before her son's body was going to be exhumed. Our client made it just in time to the cemetery. MJA did manage to get a source into the autopsy investigation, managing to say hi to our client at the state morgue. Then, before December 2016, the Louisiana State Police handed over a flash drive to our client, who handed it over to MJA to be looked at by MJA. In December 2016, Louisiana State Police paid a visit to our client, Royce Eckley, with a letter being just a few lines that the case wasn't going to be overturned. On the flash drive was the Louisiana State Police investigation into the death of Marcus Merritt, including all paperwork with documented statements, 4 videos, photos of the death room with Mr. Merritt still in the room. You know, the ones that they denied having over a year ago. A talk screen. Videos of the autopsy. The video showed they didn't secure Mr. Merritt's body, bringing him out of the coffin, and materials was falling from his body onto the floor. That material was swept up and thrown into a trash can. Lowering Mr. Merritt's body down on the table, Mr. Merritt's boot with the foot fell into the sink. The autopsy was third rate, with the video camera being in the corner where you can't see what the medical examiner is doing to the body. Plus, no audio detailing the steps being conducted during the autopsy. The videos of 2 poly tests given to Mr. Merritt's wife, which in both tests concerning the 3 important questions to his death, they were inconclusive. There was a man who was Mr. Merritt's wife's ex-boyfriend that she used as an intimidation factor with other men, claiming that her ex-boyfriend's burn on his arm that she threw hot grease on him. We have this man's statement to the Louisiana State Police that he got the burn on his arm from his workplace, a fast food joint, long before he started dating her. So we know Mr. Merritt's wife was an habitual liar, for she told this story multiple times to several different people. Now let's get to the talk screen. Mr. Merritt's liver tissue had 400 nanograms of fentanyl in his system. Mr. Merritt didn't use drugs. Also, the talk screen revealed that there were other chemicals in Mr. Merritt's systems that were byproducts of household cleaning products, not from embalming fluid. Let's take a pause for the cause, and we will be back in a moment.
Searching in the dark, trusting every clue I found, but the every corner of these woods is hollow. I can't see the dark.
Welcome back to our MJ podcast. This is an MJ News Spot, Part 22. A True Conspiracy. The mysterious death of Marcus Merritt Sr. Following the chain of evidence, our next step was to analyze the death room photos. A mechanical engineer of 35 years that is on our staff and I analyzed the death room photos. I have 946 classroom hours of reading death room photos, including my duties with MJA since June 1st, 2001. Our findings from the blood evidence and the position of the body states the scene was staged. Our mechanical engineer recreated the death room with the photos, and that from the blood evidence and the position that the body was found in, that it would defeat the laws of gravity and physics with objects in motion. So there is no question, Mr. Merritt's body was posed. This report by our mechanical engineer was published by the media. Don't you think the media checked the science of the report before they published it? Our findings states from the blood evidence and the location of the blood, there was someone else in the room when Mr. Merritt died. Some blood located could indicate that our suspect was injured in some way, but no blood evidence was taken on January 4th, 2013. We also had an issue with where the so-called death gun was located. The death gun would have been found 3 feet from Mr. Merritt's left hand, where Mr. Merritt was right-handed and his body fell to the right, making the death gun 5 feet from Mr. Merritt's right hand. There is no damage to Mr. Merritt's teeth, and MJA found no stippling in Mr. Merritt's mouth or cheeks from the so-called contact wound. Another issue, there are 2 photos of the death gun. One photo, the gun is completely uncovered, laying on the bloody bedding. In another photo, it shows the death gun half covered up by the bloody bedding. Why? At this point, everything we are reading from the Louisiana State Police Flash-Drive, that the death of Mr. Merritt was going to be ruled a homicide. Then, in December 2016, the Louisiana State Police visited our client with about a half-page letter that still ruled her son's death a suicide. At best, we wanted the death overturned to undetermined. Another mistake by the Louisiana State Police. The Louisiana State Police scream foul after we point out our findings of evidence came from the Louisiana State Police flash drive that they had provided. We didn't make this evidence up or forge any documents or doctor up the death room photos. It's on the Louisiana State Police flash drive. MJA didn't do the talk screen. The Louisiana State Police did, but MJA knows how to read a talk screen. The tox screen and the chemicals found in Mr. Merritt's system was never fully researched by the Louisiana State Police like MJA did. MJA spoke with experts and nurses concerning these chemicals and its effect it could have on a person. It's not good. It's simple. The Louisiana State Police Flash-Drive from their investigation proves that there are some unanswered questions. There is more than enough evidence to hold a death inquest or a grand jury to hear the facts concerning Mr. Merritt's death. This is what the state of Louisiana doesn't want anybody to know about, that there's supporting evidence that Mr. Merritt's death was a homicide. The Louisiana State Police just can't prove it. So since December 2016, it's been a given that the Louisiana State Police wasn't going to move forward, and we were given contact emails that might be able to help. MJA has posted Mr. Merritt's death with the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the Governor's Office of Public Affairs. MJA did develop some contacts from former government employees who tried to push the Department of Justice along that it was a great case to take on. After promising leads and contacts, Mr. Merritt's case didn't gain any ground. We just experienced another broken promise from the state of Louisiana, that a federal detective stationed in the state would be contacting me, which didn't happen. Then I found out their office was located in the Louisiana State Police headquarters. So, we know how that went, don't we? This is a miscarriage of justice. The state of Louisiana wants this to all go away when the reality is that it's not going to happen. So, the Louisiana State Police went all out to exhume Mr. Merritt's body and then didn't follow up and push forward. Please stay tuned for more info as it happens concerning the death of Marcus Merritt Sr. That's the end of our MJA podcast. This has been an MJA News Spot, Part 22, A True Conspiracy. The Mysterious Death of Marcus Merritt Sr. We say to all of you, good night from Morrisonville, New York.
All my friends are heathen, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. Welcome to the rooms of people who have rooms for people that they love one day docked away. Just because you check the guns at the door doesn't mean the brains will change from hand to grenade. You'll never know a psychopath sitting next to you. You'll never know a murderer sitting next to you. You'll think how we get here sitting next to you. But after all I've said, please don't forget. All my friends are heathen, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. We don't deal that size very well. They say newcomers have a certain smell. You've trust issue not to mention. They say they can smell your intention. You'll never know a freak show sitting next to you. You'll have some weird people sitting next to you. You'll think how we get here sitting next to you. But after all I've said, please don't forget.